At sunset, he emerges from the jungle shadows, limping, battered, a ghost of the wild thing he once was, his body torn by time, his breath shallow, but his eyes still burning with something ancient, something remembered. 17 years have passed since the last moment two souls touched without words. Now the temple stands silent, frozen in twilight as monks turn toward the sound that shouldn't exist, the sound of claws on sacred stone. He shouldn't be here, not after so long, not after everything, and yet he is, and the moment the monk sees him, time fractures, memory floods back. Not in thoughts, but in ache, in instinct, in something that never left a connection, older than language, deeper than loss, something the jungle couldn't kill and silence couldn't bury. And when the tiger falls at the monk's feet, the mountains hold their breath, because what has returned is not just a beast, it is a lost part of a life. A wound reopened and somehow healed in the same breath, each morning before the sun crests the ridge. Brother Aaron walks the worn path behind the temple barefoot, through dew-covered grass as he once did, with soft paws padding beside him. But now it is only the wind that follows. He lights incense with steady hands, bows in silent reverence, and places a bowl of milk at the edge of the inner courtyard. An old habit, no longer questioned by the younger monks who have grown used to the quiet rituals of the elder, who rarely speaks, yet always watches the tree. Line each night he chants beneath the ancient Bodhi tree, eyes closed, but mind adrift not in prayer, but in memory of warmth pressed against his legs of golden eyes, blinking slow in trust of low purring beneath the stars. The jungle is loud, but it never brings the sound. He waits for days blur into one another, simple, serene, but just beneath the surface. Something stirs, something that aches like a bruise, never given time to heal, a presence missing yet never fully gone. The temple breathes peace, but Aaron carries stillness like a burden, not a blessing. Every silence reminds him of the one who left, and every shadow stretching across the stone is shaped like something that once lay beside him. It happened with no warning, no sound, no struggle, just the quiet absence of breath where there had always been warmth. The morning air was still fragrant with jasmine when Aaron found the empty space where Surya once slept, a slight depression in the grass, the faintest trace of paw prints leading away into the mist for hours. He wandered through the jungle, calling not with voice but with memory, waiting for the flick of a tail, the glint of amber eyes, but only birds answered, and even they soon fell. Silent fear came first, cold and sharp, then disbelief like a hand clutching his chest, then the ache, the slow realization that nothing would return. The days that followed blurred into one long silence. Aaron stopped speaking except in prayer, but even those became fewer. His smile faded, his movements smaller as though shrinking inside himself. Monks spoke to him less unsure of the shape of his grief. The temple continued in its rhythm. Bells, chants, offerings, seasons changed. But something beneath the stone had shifted. Time weathered the walls, but not the hollow inside. 17 years passed, and with each year the forest grew thicker, and Aaron thinner stillness settled around him like dust on sacred statues too delicate to disturb. And though no one asked, he still placed the bowl of milk at the courtyard's edge, not out of hope, but out of love that never found its way back. Let me pause here for just a moment. And now I want to ask you, where are you listening from? Have you ever felt something like this in your life? A connection so deep that even after years of silence, it still lived on inside you. Maybe with a person, maybe with an animal. Someone who remembered you, even after time and distance tried to erase it. If this story touches something in you, if you believe in bonds that never truly break, hit that follow button. There's more to come, and it only gets more heartfelt from here. It began with a scent drifting through the courtyard at dusk, thick with damp earth and crushed wildflowers. The same scent that used to cling to golden fir after long walks in the forest. It was nothing and everything at once, a breath caught in the chest, a memory that bloomed too fast, too vivid. Then a sound, not loud but ancient claws against stone, dragging slow and uncertain, yet unmistakably real. Aaron froze incense burning low between his fingers, eyes fixed on the tree line where something moved, something limping, something far too large to be real, but not large enough to be forgotten. His heart surged hope and fear crashing together, because what if it wasn't him? And worse, what if it was? Would he still remember? Would he still care? Aaron's hands trembled, old doubts rising from beneath years of silence. Maybe this was a cruel trick of memory, a ghost summoned by grief or guilt. But then the tiger stepped fully into view. His coat dulled by time, his body broken, but his eyes lit with something that didn't fade, something that had waited too long to speak. And Aaron felt it not in words, but in the pull of something ancient inside him, a tether stretched but never severed. It told him to move, to speak, to reach. But fear held him for one final second. And in that second, he understood this wasn't about faith or answers. It was about love and the risk it demands. And before he could stop himself, Aaron stepped forward past the incense, past the temple gates, into the open arms of the past still breathing, still waiting, still his. They stood across from each other, not more than a breath apart, but separated by 17 years of silence and memory. The tiger swayed on his feet, ribs visible beneath his torn coat. Breath-shallow eyes locked on Aaron with something that looked like pain, but deeper, heavier. The monk could not speak. He only moved slowly, cautiously, each step measured as though approaching a dream that might vanish the closer he got. The others stood frozen, watching but distant, as if time itself had folded and left. Only these two in the world. Aaron knelt, not because he meant to, but because his legs gave way beneath the weight of seeing him again. And in that moment, Surya lowered his massive head with painful grace, pressing it against Aaron's lap. Not like an animal, but like someone returning home. The silence roared. Aaron's hands hovered, then settled gently in the thick fur, now matted and warm. His fingers trembling as they found the old scar above the left eye, a scar he knew by heart. And that was when it happened. The click, the shift, the quiet ignition of something ancient and unbroken. Surya's body relaxed. A deep, low breath left him not of pain, but of release, a letting go of the years between them. Aaron's face crumpled. No words came, only tears falling freely, into the fur that once lay beside him under stars and stone. They didn't need language. They never had, only the stillness, only the breath, only the bond carved deeper than fear, deeper than time. The others cried too, not from grief, but from the staggering tenderness of witnessing something eternal return to itself. In the days that followed, they moved slowly, not from weakness, but from reverence, as if afraid too much motion would break the fragile miracle, now breathing between them. Each morning, Aaron would find Surya waiting just outside the temple doors, lying, still, but watching him with the same quiet intensity. As all those years ago, the monks brought food and water in silence, bowing low not out of fear, but out of awe. Surya accepted their presence, but gave his trust to only one in the cool hours before. Dawn Aaron would sit beside him, brush the fur around old wounds, whisper nothing, just let the rhythm of their breathing fill the space. Once empty one evening, a butterfly landed on Surya's nose, and he startled, then sneezed. Aaron laughed, a soft, full sound that had not passed his lips in years. The tiger turned his head slowly, blinked, and for the first time in a long time, something like playfulness stirred between them. Not loud, not young, but alive. Sometimes Aaron would close his eyes, resting his palm against Surya's chest, feeling the steady thump beneath layers of scar and silence. Sometimes Surya would lean against him, not pressing, not demanding, just being there, as if to say, "I am still here, and so are you, and that is enough together." They watched, the sun fall behind the hills, and the jungle glow gold once more, and in that hush where no words were needed, they began again. Not as they were, but as they had become, two souls reshaped by loss and returned by love, in a world that had changed, but somehow remembered them still. And in that remembering, they healed not quickly, not perfectly, but truly, because what had been lost was never broken, just waiting, and now it was home again. Some bonds are not made of words, but of something older, something that breathes beneath silence. They survive time, not by holding on, but by waiting patiently through distance, through forgetting, through the ache of not knowing, until one quiet evening. They return not to be celebrated, but to be seen, to remind us that what was real never truly leaves. It only slips beneath the surface, waiting for the heart to open again. And when it does, nothing is ever the same, because healing is not forgetting. It is. Remembering without fear and love that endures without sound is the kind that saves us when we no longer know we need saving.